Welcome to this week's Oh Shit. I'm Ben Way, this is Freddie Laker, and we're talking about travel, which is quite appropriate because we're on a yacht.
No, I think it's appropriate. Except you can't go anywhere useful on a yacht.
No, that's true. It always seems like you can, but when you actually look at the map, you're like, that's going to take 5 days to get like across to the Bahamas.
Yeah, or if you're like, you show up, it's kind of pretentious. You're like, I just needed to go to Kinko's and get some copies, and people are like, why'd you come on a yacht? That seems kind of knobby.
I don't think I've ever done that, but I'll take it as an advisory.
You can't be the only way you travel, I'm just saying.
What are your travel hacks? What do you do for business travel?
Oh man, so I've travelled quite a bit through my career. At one time when I was working at Sapien, I'm not exaggerating, I used to travel about 130 to 150 flights a year for almost 4 years.
Wow.
Almost all of that, well, I'd say at least half of that was long haul. A lot of that's Asia, so we're doing 24-hour flights. And actually, I did it for so long. At one point, I even started to develop a fear of flying. I had like PTSD from traveling too much.
Wow.
But I did learn some good hacks, and I think I have a lot of debatable opinions I'd like your take on.
Okay.
Okay. Debate number one: what, checked bags or no checked bags?
Never checked. Never checked bag. For me, the first time I'm proper traveling, I took this massive suitcase, and I regretted it so much that from that point on, I can literally travel across the world with just a carry-on, and if I need anything, I just buy it there. And that's my hack. If I need underwear, I go and buy underwear.
So, step one:
Postmates underwear.
become successful, and then step two is buy your stuff when you get there.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, but if you go to Asia, it's actually cheaper to buy the stuff there than it is anywhere else.
Yeah, I don't know if that applies to everyone, but
no, maybe not.
Okay,
no.
So if you have a friend, your business friend you're traveling with, and they check a bag, do you like them slightly less after that? Yes.
Yeah, that's a faux pas. That's a travel.
Yeah,
though I will, if it's a female business associate, I understand that. I've had enough experience to know that ladies like a lot of choices.
Well, my wife's hardcore. We just did Asia for almost 3 weeks in one I think it was one carry-on between us actually.
Wow.
And my camera bag.
Were you wearing her underwear?
Oh, what the hell are you going to do on holiday if you can't wear your wife's underwear?
Right, indeed. Did she wear it after you?
Oh, let's get too deep now. Okay, guys, I think we should move on to our second travel.
Okay.
It's very
we've gone
obvious.
too deep. We're moving on. This is an oh shit moment.
It's definitely the oh shit moment. Okay. How would you give some other advice, I think maybe to get people down to one bag? One trick I've learned is, if you're going to go on a trip, and let's say it's 2-3 day business trip, you go all brown or all black. And what I mean by that is, if you got, most people say, oh God, I'm going to bring different pairs of shoes, I've got all these different outfits. And so when I travel, I'm not kidding, I'm like, this is a brown trip, and it's brown leather, and then whatever my dress clothes and whatever,
Nice.
and that cuts like my bag in half. So I think that's a pretty good hack.
Oh, I got one. I always forget this, but I actually have 2 passports. So that is the best hack. I've had 2 passports since I was like 19, and I never have to worry about losing my passport because I've got 2 of them. And actually, most countries.
Do you have the same 2 passports that I do? I have a British and an American one.
No, I actually have 2 British passports. So you can, believe it or not, most people don't know this, but most countries will issue multiple passports if you do business travel in the Middle East, for instance, because I believe if you go to Israel, you can't go to somewhere else. And if you go to Israel, you can't go to the UAE. So the UK government will issue up to 3 passports.
I didn't know that. It's fascinating.
And that gives me a kind of weird safety net, which I really enjoy, because I also quite like the fact that I have 2 passport numbers, so kind of like, which country should I go in on this one?
See, I understand. I have a British and an American passport, which I thought was great, because when I went to countries where they maybe didn't like English people or they didn't like Americans, I could use the other passport.
No, Freddie, they just don't like you.
That's also probably true, but now no one likes either country. It's great. So
we screwed up on Brexit. So what can we say? We can't judge anybody, right?
So I guess the real question is, some people go, and I used to feel like, if you took a red eye, it's like, look, I can't miss any work during the day. I'm going to fly at night, it's efficient, when I get there I can do meetings all day, and this is smart because I'm being super hyper efficient as productivity wise. But you also kind of like, it's going to be really hard on your next day.
I can't. I
so
get
is it productive
really
or not productive?
Bad jet lag. So if I do a red eye, I'm done for the next day. I just can't function. It's like my brain is on half power. Actually, all major time zone travel over 5 hours gives me some kind of jet lag.
I'm doing back-to-back red eyes next week or this coming weekend. I'm red eyeing Saturday night and then running Sunday night. I'm going to Amsterdam, which I think actually was thinking earlier that we should actually have a chat about working in different countries, because I'm actually going to go to Amsterdam for 2 months to work with a new client.
But don't worry, we're still keeping the show going. We may have to cut in and out, but we're keeping it going.
Yeah, I think we should definitely get into this. And I think, what's it like to work in a foreign culture? And I know you've got some experience there. I've lived and worked in England. I've lived and worked in China, and now I'm going to try Amsterdam out. So I'd love to chat about that at some point.
Yeah, and actually that's a really good point, because I started a business in Thailand, and it's all run by the mafia. And so that experience was incredible, because it teaches you this whole kind of world of business that we're not exposed to in America.
I want to hear about that. By the way, I thought my stories would be halfway interesting, but of course you had to bring in, run by the mafia and always one up me. Typical bad.
Well, come on, you one up me more than I one up you. I mean,
we could dedicate an episode to that if you want.
Well, I'm sure we can. Now, I do see that there's something quite interesting in front of us right now. What the hell is this?
This is, without exaggerating, my most prized possession in the entire world. I've shown this to many of my friends over the years, and it's something I thought would be really fun to share with our Shippy fans. And it's basically a logbook of every flight I've ever taken in my entire life, signed by every captain since I was 3 months and 17 days old.
Wow.
And so something my father started for me. He was in the aviation world, and so it's a real captain's logbook with CAA. And you can see right here, first flight, 3 months and 17 days old. It goes 1978, April 21st. Wow. I've got the plane type, the registration, the captain's name, the cities. And in the beginning,
where are you off to?
It's Palma de Mallorca from Gatwick. And so in the beginning, there's a couple people leave some notes in here, and it's mainly just signatures. It's no big deal. You start seeing airlines like Eastern that doesn't exist anymore, Braniff that doesn't exist anymore. So my 38th transatlantic crossing, I was 5.
Wow.
But actually, as you start to go further in here, you start seeing. I've got one of them on page 65 now, and you start seeing like how many notes are in here, because captains basically freak out. So here's my 147th transatlantic. A guy right next to you goes, "You fly them more than me." I've actually had those a couple of times in there. I've had a guy basically find his father in here, so multiple generations of pilots. I've had I've got Concorde in here. I've got a hot air balloon in here. I've got an acrobatic flying plane in here. But I think the coolest story of the logbook is, I guess it was about, would have been about 2010, about 2010. I was at Sapient, and I was traveling in England, and I was not able to sleep on the flight, and I didn't sleep at all. I had to go straight to work, and I was delirious. And I basically got to England, got in the Black London cab. They were driving me to the Sapient offices, and I left my laptop. I took my luggage, but I left my backpack, which had my laptop and my phone and all that stuff in it, and my logbook. And I left it in the back of this cab, and everyone said, "You're going to get it back. No big deal. It's Black London cab, most reliable cabs on earth, right?" And never showed up, and I was devastated. I literally was in tears over it. And about 6 months go by. It's gone as far as I'm concerned. And a package shows up in the office of Sapient Miami, and it's the book. And I remember opening up my hand, immediately started shaking because so much adrenaline hit me. And there's a note in there, and it said, "Dear Mr. Laker, a British taxi driver gave me this book and said that you accidentally left it in the back of his cab, and that he wanted to send it back to you, but he didn't trust international mail, and he gave me £30 and your address and asked me to mail it to you." And so this guy was following the taxi driver's instructions, but he didn't realize that this guy had basically nicked all my stuff, which I was frankly fine with. As long as I got the book. But he basically gave it to the guy so that you couldn't trace it. You know, so there's no way of figuring out who sent it, and this guy sent it back to me. So all of a sudden I got the book back. The only thing I could think of is that he looked at it, maybe figured out what it was, and said, my folder's photos up in the front, and maybe could tell this is something that was special between me and my folder, and had a conscience. And I just had this vision of him like showing it to somebody at his house one day, and that person going, "You've got to send this back to this guy," and send it back. So there is a point in here where my favorite thing about the book is I love how all the signatures are original and so on. And there's a section in here where basically you'll notice all the registrations disappear, but there are flights. And I wanted to have all the different signatures, so actually I was able to recreate all the missing flights. I lost it in just 6 months. I covered off almost 2.5 pages, and I had all my friends sign it as captains. Actually, a lot of these people were Chameleon Collective folks, and so I had everyone sign it. So, and if you're going through, you wouldn't even know that it wasn't the original book, but I always think it's kind of fun that my friends are now part of this memory. So,
wow, that is it.
So it's pretty wild. I got to get this up on the ship slide. I'm going to scan it and I want to share it with some folks.
Yeah,
but I thought people get a kick out of it. So for the most digital guy on earth, this is the most analog thing I've ever done.
The simple things are beautiful, right?